Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this part of our virtual bazaar, the panel on youth identity and activism. My name is Katie Jagir, and I am the youth organizer for the Arab American Association of New York. And I am joined by Yafa Diaz, our lead organizer, and our two lovely panelists. Tahseen, could you introduce yourself?
So hi everyone, my name is Tassine Naqvi. I attend Fort Hamilton High School. I'm a rising senior and I am currently a part of the Brooklynette and Brooklyn Bay program at AAA-NY.
Great. Thank you so much, Tahseen. Laith, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, my name is Laith, and I'm a Jordanian Palestinian. I'm a freshman in college studying biology, and I've been doing activism and helping out the Arab American Association since around last year.
Great, thank you so much.
Oh, and hello everyone. My name is Yafa Diaz. I'm the lead organizer at AAA-NY, and I have been with AAA-NY since last December, and it's been exciting. I'm super happy to be joined by our youth panelists today, and I'm going to pass it on to you, Katie.
Great. Well, just for anyone tuning in, we have some great youth activists with us, and we're going to be talking about how identity has shaped their activism and what kind of activism and advocacy they're involved in today. So the first question we have for you guys is if you comment on what do you think it means to be young and children of immigrant parents today?
You want to go first, or?
You could go first.
You sure? Okay, so when we talk about being young and being a child of an immigrant, you have to look at all the elements that come into it, because you're not in a normal situation. Your parents have come from either a struggling country or just trying to come to America to have better opportunities for you. And now, while they're coming to another country, they're restarting, they don't have much. And now the expectations for you to succeed and carry their dreams on are 10 times harder than what you would expect. So I think what it means is to be hardworking, to be dedicated, have ambitions, and not only to work for yourself, but to work for your family as well.
Right, nice. What about you, Tahseen?
So for me, I feel like being young and children of immigrant parents can mean many different things depending on what your family came here for. I think it's very important to mention that, this country was built on the backbone of immigrants, and that, the best way that I can put it is that what it means for us to be young and children of immigrant households is that we are very aware and experienced, whether we like it or not. I think that, for whatever reason our parents came here, whether that was for freedom purposes, for purposes of a better life, it means that we have listened to the stories and seen the scars of what they have endured mentally and physically. And by that, we are very experienced in that we know when certain things are going on in the world, we have a more broad understanding of it because of what our parents went through. And we don't have a narrow understanding, but we have a very broad understanding of certain ideas and events that are going to occur or that are in the process of occurring because we've seen how they have been handled within our own familiar backgrounds and countries and homelands.
Yeah,
That was really nice, Tahseen. Thank you. It also reminds me of when you're the first generation of immigrant parents here within the U.S. You, just like you said, you listen to their stories. You're kind of holding on to their scars because you grow up with both cultures or juggling both cultures and trying to keep connected with where you're truly from and the history of your ancestors. And so that all passes down within, our parents, but then also, we combat the society we live in today here in the US. And so I guess what I would like to ask the both of you is, how have you been able to find a middle ground while living here in the US, but also like learning with your immigrant families, like learning from them the language that they grew up learning as a first language? How have you both like made it adapt into who you are today? Like, do you hold it with you? Do you speak another language? Do you make sure you share it with other people, your friends, society, anything like that?
So I think that's a really good question, and that kind of topic doesn't really get brought up much. So I'm glad that you brought it up. When I think about the middle ground of American culture versus, let's say, my Arabi culture, right? Moving to America, it's what they call a melting pot, and so many different cultures come together. And sometimes either your Arabi culture will get washed away or your American culture will get washed away. And I feel like, because I know some people, they didn't even try to learn English when they came here, you know? They know Arabi and then that's it. They just live there and they live in peace. Others, if you tell them to ask you how to say sandwich, right? They wouldn't even know what that is. You say, hey, can you give me a sandwich from the deli or something? They'd be like, what's that? So I feel like trying to find a middle ground, it's harder than expected, because so many different cultures, they come into contact with each other and they'll mix. Like me, since I came to America around when I was like a year old, right, with my family. And if you would ask me about a lot of my cousins back in Jordan, right, I wouldn't know how to tell. I wouldn't know their history. I wouldn't know most of their names. There's a lot. So it's like, it comes to a point where sometimes some people won't even speak Arabic, and some people, they'll still be strong-headed in one way. And
Yeah,
it's hard to adjust.
yeah. Tahseen.
I think as human beings, wherever we're put behaviorally, we have to adapt to our surroundings. That's what, we're made and built to do. I think Laith mentioned a very good point that sometimes when you try to adapt to a new surrounding, your culture can get wiped away, or parts of things that used to be very important to your loved ones are not as important to you. I think when we talk about the middle ground, that is why it's so important to understand what you like and what you want out of, your cultural expectations and your new, expectation of where you live. For example, my parents are very entangled in the culture of their homeland. However, I was born and raised American. Now it is my responsibility and decision to, first and foremost, respect both cultures, because I have gained a lot of opportunities in being American that my parents weren't. But also I highly respect my religion and culture, because those two things are what made my parents, who are my official caretakers, and my loved ones, very important to me. So I think that it's very important in finding your middle ground to, while respecting both entities, finding what's important to you. And I think that's the only thing you can do, because they are so vastly different. American people have their own culture. Although we are a melting pot and this country is all immigrants, we all have, there's like the ideal American culture, but then you also have your own cultural influence. So I think it's dependent on the person and how much of that influence you want to take. And personally speaking, I think for me, staying in contact with my culture and my heritage is very important. And I think it's a fundamental part of who I am. So I definitely think that there are expectations from both sides, and it's for you to decide what's important to you, and that's the best way to go about it, in my opinion.
Nice. Wow. Thank you so much, Tahseen. Katie?
I guess, yeah, Tassine, I think I think talking about this middle ground also brings up another point of like, any children and any generation has like conflict with the generation above it, or like the generation, intergenerational conflict of like how they're going to do things differently. And so I'm curious, like, how do you guys how do you guys see your generation as being different from your parents' generation, and how do you navigate that gap or that conflict, or whenever conflict arises, in terms of you and your parents being raised in different places, and how that shapes your worldview?
So I feel you could talk about how different generations have really been, well, I think the main difference between our generation and our parents' generation is the culture and how it translates over into moving to America and mixing with their culture. You see, some people will try to use religion to justify certain cultural actions, right? And so I think when we talk about like the different philosophies and our different uh, generations and how we act, I think that our generation has a more wide open view of understanding about different subjects. We see it from a non-biased point of view, while our parents were raised strictly on that one point of view. We're able to see everything because we're in America. And I think that's what creates our generation and molds us to be stronger, because we're able to see both sides of the story, right? We're not only focused on that one thing that could make or break us, you know?
Well, first and foremost, I would say thank you, Katie, for asking that question, because I think it's very important to address that disconnect between generations, and, it honestly leads to issues systemically. So I think that was a very important question to address. With that being said, I think another side of what Laith has said is also that, because of the advancements made in technology and the social world in terms of social media, kids are in our generation versus the previous generation almost have this, responsibility to constantly educate themselves because of the tools that we are given and the opportunity that we're given. I feel like even in countries that are suffering, there's been severe advancements made in technology all around the world. And that really allows for people of our generation to be more conscious of our surroundings. Whereas our parents, as Late said, were very like encapsulated in a culture and a systemic growth. However, we have a lot more freedom of educating ourselves on certain topic and making those decisions, whereas our parents or previous generations were kind of, whether they were run and controlled by their government, controlled by, culture and familial, history, whatever the case may be. I feel that there is a lot more, mindfulness and awareness when it comes to our generation, and that really allows for us to make a lot of personal decisions for ourselves that weren't, accessible to our parents or other generations.
Nice. Thank you guys so much. So I'm going to move on because I want us to get started in talking about being able to organize within our communities, but also being able to like juggle who we are in a sense. Because, well, I'll ask this. So have either of you ever felt, or do you feel your personal philosophy on spirituality or life in general are different because of those intersections? Like what you were speaking about, just like the challenges that you face today when you are holding like your culture, your religious belief, who you are. Like what do you feel like you're challenged in a negative aspect or a positive aspect in trying to maintain like maybe an image like outside amongst the public or within just like who you are? Hopefully, I don't know if that question was a little clear or not, but I guess in the sense like what are the biggest challenges you face on maybe spirituality or like when it comes to you being first generation of immigrant parents, Late?
Okay, so to bring that back to what I was talking about before,
But
as
what's
for
one of the main, like, emphasize on maybe what's one of the main biggest problems that you feel like
okay,
you
I
faced
got you. I got you. No
and
worries. I got
and had to combat it.
you. One of the main challenges I would say is the culture, like specifically the negative parts of our culture, right? And I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for this,
No, go
but
ahead. No, say it. Yeah.
one thing, okay, one thing that really gets on my nerves is how people try to please others. You know, they'll say, "Oh, don't dress like this because we're about to go there," and they can talk about you, and they're gonna do, or don't act like this, or don't post that, or don't do this next to someone because they're gonna end up talking. I hate that, right? And as I was saying before, as our own, like we're our own person, right? We get to look at things from both sides. So why should we care what other people think? Why don't we live for us and to make the decisions that we think are the things that should be correct? We have a moral code in ourself, right? We don't have to please anyone. As long as you're not hurting anyone or making fun of anyone or just doing something that can hurt you or your family, right? Not in a reputation kind of way, physically, mentally kind of way. We shouldn't be focusing on that, you know? And I feel like that's a big problem that nobody talks about because they're too scared to bring it up because it's their culture. And then people will justify it by saying, "Oh, religion tells us that we have to do this." But no, nowhere in the religion does it say that we have to do that. It says it's the culture, right? And I feel like that's just a really big problem. And everyone says, "Oh, it's just the culture, it's tradition, we have to do it," you know? It's like, no, you have your own brain. We don't have to follow the culture. We're in America first and foremost. We can make our own culture and we can create something new while still following the rules of Islam if you're Muslim, or Christianity if you're Christian, or any other religion. Create your own culture that way, you know?
Nice. Thank you, Tahsin.
So I would say that a big part for me at, like, I think what Laith was touching upon, which kind of trickles into my idea of personal philosophy, which is that we have differing expectations from our culture and from the new, American culture that we're in, or that we've adapted to. I think for me, it's always been, my personal philosophy has always been, because of my parents, it's always, and what they've endured, it always instilled drive and ambition in me. And whereas my peers in school would take opportunity as a choice, opportunity growing up for me till this day has always been a privilege. And I don't think until we, systemically get rid of the issues involving immigrant households, I can ever think that I am entitled to choose whether or not an opportunity that I want to take is my decision. And the reason why I say that is because, my personal philosophy has always been, as I said, to work hard and, reach the goals that my parents were able to reach, right? That's why I was put in this country, so to say. And I think that all comes from my personal philosophy ties into that, because it's like every single time I've been given an opportunity, I was always looked at it as a privilege. It was never a choice for me. I know that back where my parents are from and their homeland, there's no such thing as a choice in where you choose opportunity. There is no opportunity. They came and left their entire homes and household and families and loved ones to, get opportunity here. So for me, it's always been like, I get an opportunity. It's a privilege for me to have this opportunity, and that I should take it as soon as I get it. With respect to flexibility and time and understanding that I can do it to my fullest potential, morally speaking. So I think that it really affects those intersections, because it is those intersections that mentally make me feel that opportunity is a privilege, when opportunity should truly be accessible to everyone and a choice on whether or not you should take it.
Nice. Thank you so much. Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. No, what I'm hearing from Texine is like taking your family's history and making it, push you forward in terms of determination and grit. And then Laith, like also deconstructing some of the the confines of, you know, having to focus on reputation and having to focus on things like that. And I think that combination really makes someone like a bold activist, like having that grit, but also being like, no, I am driven by my own moral compass and nothing else, and I'm going to be bold and not necessarily focus on what other people are thinking of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that. And yeah, just going off of that, I'm curious, what kind of activism are you involved in today, and like what led you to that activism? What drives you?
And what do you mean? What drives me? Like what keeps me going, or what got me started?
Oh,
Both, but I guess that's kind of a big question. So maybe
why don't we?
maybe we can break this up. First, what kind of activism are you involved in?
Okay.
Then I'm gonna ask you what got you in there and what keeps you going.
So most of the activism I've done since around last summer. Yeah. Oh, actually, it's been a year since I started. A few days ago. Hey, it's
Happy
been
anniversary.
So me and my friend Yusuf, we started off with doing Fundraiser for Sudan, right? I don't know if you guys know what happened, but the whole coup d'etat and the government turnover and all that. And so they were really in need of medical supplies. And so we saw a problem and we said, you know what? Why don't we look into this? Why don't we learn about it first? And then why don't we try to do something to tackle it and try to help people, you know? And I think that's the main thing of my activism. I just want to help people. Like, and I know some people will say, oh, that's so cliche. Why do you say that? I mean, it's the truth. I don't know what else you want me to say. Like, I'm doing it for reputation. No, I'm doing it to see someone smile. You know, when you say, oh, we held a fundraiser for Sudan, and then you're talking to a Sudanese person, and they have a big grin on their face, and they're like, really, you did something for Sudan? Nobody else did it. And it's that keeps me driven. That when you see that people who might not have enough like daylight like in the media or something, and you're trying to help them and they notice that and they appreciate you, it goes a long way and it motivates you to keep going. Because my ambition is I want to start a program. I want to start something big that's going to change the way we look at problems in the United States. I want to make something, you know, a legacy that's going to inspire even more people to say, hey, this is a problem. I want to fix it. And I don't want people to look at a certain issue in one way, you know?
Nice.
Oh, and what am I doing now? Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. So at the moment, well, it's still in the works. It's not anything official yet. But me and a friend were thinking about starting a separate group called Aiding Humanity, where we're going to try to do some community work, fundraisers for the homeless, for certain programs, underfunded schools, things like that. It's still in the works, but hopefully we'll launch soon.
All right.
Amazing. Texine, did you want to comment on that?
Yes. So I would say that basically I really cannot even, since I was a little kid, honestly, and I was allowed in 6th grade to start watching all the cartoons that kids were watching when they were 5. I started watching Cyber Chase because, you know, I was done with people making all the commentary on them and I had no clue what they were talking about. And there was one episode after they always had like this after session with this girl named Bianca, and it's like the real life cyber chase. And basically they were like, she's like, we have to be part of the problem, not the solution. And that oh whoa, hold on, we have to be part of the solution, not the
I was like, wait, what? Who is this Bianca?
no, I'm sorry. We have to be part of the solution, not the problem. So ever since then, I don't know why that's always stuck with me. And so I actually am very involved, like I'm like pre-med. And so what happened was I started being a part of the pre-med program at my middle school, which led us to, you know, our teacher there at the time who run the program took us to the Norwegian Christening home, and that's really where my activism and, you know, community work began. So there I started talking for better treatment of nursing home patients, and from there, and I'll trickle into all like the little stuff, like just naming the stuff that I've done. I've worked on the tax on menstruation products. I've worked on sexual harassment, walkouts. I've worked with the Thirst and We Project, which are focused on taking down world hunger and thirst in countries such as Somalia and Ethiopia. We've actually successfully built a well there in Somalia, which hopefully after COVID, if I'm able to visit, I will. Also, and then currently what I'm working on is actually with one of Late's friend, Youssef, who is now my friend. We started working on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. I've been reaching out to a couple of organizations trying to, you know, get our media team together to get some form of coverage. I've also been working with the Black Lives Matter movement and trying to educate people. Currently, what I'm doing is I'm holding Google Classroom sessions with people in New Jersey at the moment, talking, just having healthy conversation about it and becoming informed as kids of our age, because I think that is what I can do in ensuring that we're being safe during quarantine and, you know, respecting the fact that there is an ongoing pandemic. So I think for me, all of this goes to say that, as you can see from what I've named, it's very different things. And I think this is what activism is about. Activism is about seeing a problem and doing something, you know, and that's always been it for me. I have never, you know, discriminated towards a certain type of campaign, be like, oh no, I'm only going to work with the Arab American Association. I think that everyone should understand that we are all human beings and we have to fix things for humanity. So wherever I see that there's a problem and that I'm not okay with it, and I think that there's a healthy manner in which you can try to resolve it, I quietly go and I start working on that project. And I think that, you know, a lot of people undermine our age, us youth activisms. They're like, oh, you know, you can't be doing stuff at that high level. But I truly believe it is this community work and these small steps that lead to large mass organizations of, you know, beautiful walkouts and really good, you know, successes and endeavors. So I think that we all need to take our baby steps in order to achieve great things.
Destine, I feel like I want to put that on a poster over my desk to see it every day. That was so well said and so inspiring.
Yeah, wow.
Wherever there's a problem, I quietly go. Yeah, no, seriously. And what got you into activism, and what, Texine, you touched on this a little bit, but what got you into activism and what keeps you going on days when you're just completely burnt out? What's like your guiding vision or guiding principles or like core motivations to inspire other people who might be watching?
I think it's just that, as I said before, it's like, I think it's the days that we're burnt out and that we're not happy is when we're seeing insane things happening in the media. You know, you don't have to be, you can be a person who is, you know, maybe something is not going on against your country or your homeland or whatever. But I think, first of all, you should look at it from being a human being. I think that you have to have common decency. And if that's not something in your framework, I think that you should really, you know, try to understand other people's perspectives. And the days that I'm burnt out and I don't want to be, you know, and like I'm just like so like, sorry for the lack of a better word, fed up with certain things that are happening in the media. I think it is that drives me. It is that motivation that I can't just sit back and let things happen to my fellow human beings and be like, oh, well, I'm burnt out. I'm not happy that this is happening. You have to understand that the highest level of people involved in government are, you know, handling these issues. And if you're not liking the outcomes, you're going to have to do something yourself about it, because clearly your voice is not being heard, or your group people's voice is not being heard. And it is for you and your responsibility to understand and make an efficient decision on how you want to tackle that. I think that's just honestly pure laziness. Like, you can't expect to get into Harvard if you're not willing to try hard. You understand? And you can't, like, there's things in life you're gonna have to work hard for. You know, you can't expect to become a doctor trying to save other people's lives when you can't respond to an alarm clock. Like, you can't, there's certain things that you're gonna have to change within yourself in order to achieve greatness. You can't just become a millionaire overnight because you don't want to work hard. So I think that, you know, it's a fundamental thing. If you don't like what you see, try to address it in the most respectful manner that you possibly can. Try to make the change that you want to see. And that's the best thing that I can really say. It's like, you want to see change, then make the change. Be a part of the change and aid the change. And then change will happen. So, you know, it's a timely process, but if you care enough, you'll do it. And I think that should be, you have to have your own motivation, and that's the only way that that's really going to work out.
Even to add on to what you're saying, I really agree with that. Like, because some people will sit there and say, well, it's on the news. What am I going to do about it? It's like all the way across the country or something.
Yeah.
And what I really feel, right, is that it's the lack of motivation, like Tahsin said. It's that people, they're just not motivated enough to do it. They'll say, oh, I don't even know how to get started or anything. Let me tell you, it's so easy for any of the youth out there watching this right now. I want you to keep this in your mind, that keeping, like, if you want to do something, just do it. Okay? There's nothing stopping you from chasing your dreams. Okay? Look for the opportunities that are there. Like me, I ended up working with the chancellor, the mayor's office, trying to get regulations, policies into the school system, into the curriculum. What do they call it? I forgot the word for it, but more diverse curriculum. We tried to get mental health clinics into the schools. We were doing so many different things, and all of it takes is just talking to one person and networking your way up. Okay, I didn't just get up there just by saying, hey, what's up, I'm gonna call the chancellor and say, what's up, man, can I come in today, let me work. No, listen, it's going to take time, and that's the truth. If you're not willing to put in the work in, if you're not willing to put the time in, I spent days, hours going to Manhattan, coming back, going to downtown, going back up, hours. If you're not willing to put that work in, and you're not willing at the end of the day to be happy with just someone saying thank you to you, then activism is not for you. Because activism, you don't do it for recognition, you don't do it for the money, you don't do it for any of that. You do it to see someone with a smile on their face, to see someone say thank you to. That's real activism. It's just like a doctor. If you go in to be a doctor for the money, you're going to be a horrible doctor. Oh, I wouldn't even want to go to you if you were just about the money. You need to have your intentions correct, right? And this was something that my dad tells me. He says, if your intentions aren't pure, if they're not 100% focused on what you want to do, don't do it, because then you're just going to end up wasting your time and all the people around you.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the point of, like, and I'll say it simply, it's like, when you do activism work, or anything, it's for the greater good of humanity. And I think that's why we do it. And I think that's why people need to get involved. And see, this is the issue. A lot of people always talk about activism work in terms of us doing it for our people. There's activism going on for a safer environment, for a safer planet, for a planet that's going to hopefully exist in 10 years if we don't stop, you know, killing our ecosystem. So I think activism in all forms is so important to our existence. You know, we need to address these issues and tackle them, because if we don't, in our purest intentions, as Laith said, there's going to be no hope for, you know, a better world, a more equally diverse and respectable world. So I think it's, again, the change that you want to see, you have to get up and do it for yourself. And you have to respect community work. You really do. Like, it is one of those works where people 100% are putting in blood, sweat, and tears and true heart and grit into the work that they are doing, giving hours on end of time, doing anything that they are told that they think will help a certain cause. And I think if that's not respectable, then I mean, what is? And doing it out of the pure intention just for, you know, a better world for our kids or for ourselves or for our parents. So I definitely think there should be a higher bar set in terms of respect for community work and community organizations.
Nice. Wow. You are answering these so well. So proud of you guys. Because it also reminds me of when I was younger, like what motivated me in order to like join the cause or either go to a protest or start a rally or be a part of like an organizing group. And it was just my roots. It was, you know, being where I'm from and what I'm connected to, and then also facing the criticism in society that is prejudice against me here in the US. And so um, all of that like helped motivate me and bring me to where I am today. And so, and seeing that in the both of you, from different points of view and aspects of your life is very empowering. And it's also like, I know that I also haven't failed society, because if I did it and yous are, and today the more and upcoming, you know, advocates, it's so good to see that you know, our minority groups and our Black and Brown people have voices, and those who are voiceless have the chance to hear and speak and see through us. Um, I hope that wasn't too much, but and then it takes me to the next part of why. Well, you emphasized on why it's important to be a youth advocate on issues that are important, like today in America. But maybe can you like list maybe one really important issue that's currently going around that's happening today in society in America? Like, what is one of the more important issues that we've seen youth challenge today, and why is it also still important to work around that particular issue? If you can name like one.
Okay, so when I was working with the chancellor, right, one prominent issue that I would always bring it up, no matter what day it was, what situation, like I would always bring it up, would be inequity in our education system, right? Our funding, right? My school, right? It's a prominently white school, right? Millions of dollars in funding, right? I've never had to share a textbook with anyone. I've had my own computer, right? I talked to some kids in uh, one of the other schools that have lower fundings, which mostly the lower funding schools, usually they're prominently minorities, black and brown children, right? They told me they had to share one textbook for 4 kids. Can you imagine having to sit there, 4 people, one textbook, having to keep like turning it around and stuff just to learn? And that puts them at a disadvantage. And that's one of the things that I'm passionate about, that we need to change. We need to change how the funding works and where this money goes, right? It shouldn't be that one school has money to renovate an entire library, install a bunch of MacBooks, a bunch of all of these things, while other schools are struggling with textbooks. I'd rather sacrifice those electronics for another school to have more textbooks, you know?
Oh,
That's a big issue, and I think that us as a community, we have to do something about that as well. And that's, yeah.
nice. Thank you so much, Late. What about you, Tahsin? Any particular one like issue?
I think the gap in opportunity. So I would say that, you know, it connects to a very large problem, but in the best way that I can honestly try to put it is that, you know, like for a lot of kids, like a lot of immigrant household, the only alternative in terms of school is to be a part of a public school. Now, we all know that there's a very, very big difference in going to a public school and going to a private school and then going to a charter school. Like, I know my friends that go to private schools who've had you know, SAT prep integrated into their English and math classes. And me being at a public school, I'm highly disadvantaged of that. Now, here's the issue. They have SAT classes integrated into their math and science, math and English and science, or whatever classes, depending on if they're taking the SAT or ACT. And then on top of that, they have the financial means to take SAT classes afterwards, after school, if they would like. Now, try to understand it from my perspective. I'm a student who attends a public school who does not have that integrated into my school system. And after school, I do not have the funds to try to go and get extra SAT prep. This is one example that I'm trying to give. This is exactly how, as Late said, our educational system is rigged. There is no way of understanding how financials are being tracked. There's no way of understanding why certain schools are getting more focus in certain things than other schools. And it really, it's a large problem amongst the youth because it creates serious divides and issues involving education. If you look up the statistics of why so many people immigrate to this country, it's to give their kids a better life. And they believe that giving their kids a better life is through putting them and giving them proper education so they can go and reach their goals and dreams. With that being said, when your education level is at such a low standard compared to those who have the financial means to already, supplement for what they're not given in school, that is a very large divide and margin that we need to close. And I think, systematically, it's a very large issue because it also creates a lot of mental, stress for kids my age. I know there's a lot of kids right now who are so stressed, and that honestly at the end of my junior year or mid junior year, we're so stressed, like, hey, listen, like my parents can't afford SAT prep. And then then you can say the argument that there's free SAT prep, but is it at the same caliber as Kaplan Review? Is it at the same caliber as the people that are providing money from College Board to Khan Academy and to other organizations? No, it is not. Okay, and not everyone can access Khan Academy because they do not have an electronic device. And quite frankly speaking, if it wasn't for this quarantine and this pandemic has helped out a lot of low-income families. It has provided them with funds and means of accessing technology that they weren't able to access prior to the pandemic. And I think if that is not enough evidence for you to understand that there is a severe divide in the education and in the, the growth that kids are getting of our age, you got to wake up. You got to realize, that there's this severe issue, and education is all that we do from our years of, pre-K to 18. So it's very, very important.
To even add on to that, I think the problem is much deeper than just different schools and funding, because you have to look into the reason why some schools are underfunded, right? It's the location of the schools and the houses around them and the people who live around them. When I say that some schools are mostly Black and brown, right? Hello?
Yeah. We can hear you, Late.
You went on mute for a second, Laith.
But largely schools
Laith, you're on
that
mute.
are Black and brown are underfunded. I will agree with him when he says that.
Yeah, and looking at the systems that divide up those funding, property
you see me?
taxes and things like that.
Yeah, we
can see you
Okay.
and now we can hear you again. Yeah.
Okay, I don't.
But,
Okay, hold up. Yeah. So, yeah, just give me like 5 seconds.
we just see a beach. But going off of what you said, Tasleen, I feel like, yeah, the
Okay, I'm back.
all of the inequalities in that, I guess, also that have been exacerbated by this pandemic. Like, people may have gotten access to technology through that city program, but also not everyone has internet at their homes and things like that. So
Yeah,
remote learning and inequities also.
I kind of went off track into the
Okay.
example. I meant to get to a specific
Okay.
point. I meant to get to a specific point, which was that this educational problem is very large because depending on the education that you get and the merit that you get, it also leaves a lot of reasons into one of the largest problem amongst youth, which is
Racial inequity.
and employment defects. And so I feel like there's a severe, like divide in that, and like we need to address those issues because the education thing leads into very, very prominent, large issues in terms of what I've experienced in getting internships coming from a public high school versus a specialized high school, and it's like certain things like that. Like I wouldn't be able to get a prestigious enough job or college or something. And you can say that, yes, we've made efforts to allow for a lot more Hispanic and, Black representation in schools.
Yeah.
But what about the brown community? What
Yeah,
about,
because
there's
that's so good. That's
there's so
exactly what
many,
Lynn was talking about.
and so what about people like me who are Pakistani and proud, but get no representation in terms of colleges, get no representation in terms of internships,
Yeah,
and I'm already discriminated against because I'm coming from a public high school and wasn't able to get. Well, let me tell you why I went to public high school, because I didn't have the funds to be buying expensive SHSAT books and then also attending SHSAT prep, which other people had the opportunity to do. So
yeah, true. Late, did you want to chime back in on that part where you?
I'm like lost now. We talked about like so many. Okay, because what I was trying to bring to light, I think Haseen, she stole that from my mouth. So
We're one team, guys. We're
No,
one
it's
team.
because you both do such amazing activist work in similar circles with these issues that continue to come up. The issues are never changing. Sometimes it hits us in a different view, but
I forgot to address my point. That's
point,
why.
the point I was trying to get through is that these problems are much deeper. They're all connected. And whether the main thing be racial inequity or just like any of these bigger general problems, everything has to fall under. It's like an umbrella, right? And I feel like if we try to solve one small problem, right, it's all good until we realize that there's like a bunch of other problems right behind it. So that's what I was trying to, yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. So,
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jaffa.
No, go ahead, Katie. If you wanted to ask anything else, I wanted to lead us into some of the more final aspects of our discussion, and what the both of you, as like youth, maybe want to see in the future, or what you would like to leave other youth with. Like, what would you recommend to them that they get? How would they get started in organizing, or what should they join, or what should they learn more about in specific areas of like issues that surround us today? And just simply, what kind of advice would you leave for them?
Well, the main thing I would tell you is educate yourself first. Learn about the different things that are going on around you, right? And the first thing that I would tell you to search up, to do research on, ask around, learn the difference between equality and equity, right? Equality means everyone is the same regardless of their situation. Did I say equity or equality? Okay. Equality is everyone being the same regardless of their situation, while equity is giving everyone the right amount of resources for them to succeed, right?
Yeah.
Start off researching that, because it will lead you into the education system and how it's kind of rigged against some, and it'll take you to so many different things. Learn about that. The second point that you should do, join your school clubs, join the Red Cross, join these school clubs, free to join. And I know a lot of these schools, they don't have, right? They don't have a student government. They might have something. Start one. I'm gonna be frank with you right now. Start one, right? You don't need funds to start a small group, right? Just do it. And I feel like learning and getting through it. And if you really want to become an activist, my strongest tip would be make connections, make networking. Learn about people, right? Learn about Linda Sorsur. Learn about different activists out there. Take a look at some of our Instagram pages. I don't know. Like, contact us, because I guarantee you we will hit you right back, because we're human. If you see me in the street, I'm flesh blood, you know. Linda Sorsur, she's flesh and blood. Barack Obama, flesh and blood. Everyone's flesh and blood. There's no difference between us. you want to talk to someone, try it, because if you don't, you're never going to get anywhere.
Nice. Thank you so much, Late Tahsin.
I think people, what I would say in terms of getting people involved in activism is that first, I'll say two things. The first being that please do it. Like, it's for humanity. And also, it's like, it's a beautiful process. It really is. People that are disconnected from their culture are able to initiate, talk, reinitiate and bring conversation with their parents. Like, hey, listen, what did you endure? It creates a lot of healthy conversation and respect amongst people. It keeps you morally grounded and it keeps you informed. And I think in this day and age, we've become very, very, understanding of why being aware is important. And number two, as I said, so the first thing is that it's a beautiful journey to be a part of, while also helping people. And the second thing that I would say is that, if you are sitting back at home and you are unbothered by what is going on in the world, or you truly don't know what's going on in the world, please try to do a self-evaluation. You are probably privileged. You are privileged enough to blur out what is going on in the world. And it does not have, you see, this is the issue. There's way too much going on in the world for you to say that, there's not something for me to be bothered by. Even if that's going and calling your friend in the middle of a discussion that you're having about school and being like, hey, you heard what happened in Lebanon? Oh my God, you happened what happened in Palestine? Something. You happen what happened in China and the Muslims that are being, put in terrible conditions there. It doesn't, like, talk about something, create something, do something about what you are feeling. Act, on your emotion in a smart and strategic manner. Understand that if you are unbothered by what is going on, that clearly means, and this is not a bad thing, that should just mean you're privileged enough to live a comfortable life. But try to understand other people's issues. Try to understand what other people are enduring and going through and how you can help them reach that privilege that you have, the privilege of being unbothered by the insane amounts of things that are going on in the world. If you are not educating yourself, at least do a self-check, do a self-reflection and understand where you are. And if you are on the side of, talking to your parents and be like, oh my God, I didn't even know you went through that back home in your country. First of all, it creates this new form of connectiveness in your family or your people or your surrounding, people that you keep around you in your circle. And then also what it does is it really allows for you to integrate and adapt to other cultures and be diverse and respect other things and, really understand other people's way of living. And it's another way of educating yourself. And I think that there's no harm in doing any of this. The best part about it is it's like you do it and you're doing something good. There is no bad to it. So why aren't you going to do it? You understand? Why? Because you're lazy. So like you're privileged enough to live comfortably, but the people that are enduring pain, you can't even, do a little post or something to at least bring attention or light or, exist or like, like bring it into existence and address it. So I think that it's all about self-checking yourself and really realizing that there's a problem and that needs to be addressed. However you do it, how big, how small, does not matter. It's the fact that you addressed it and that you realized and that it's a problem. So I think it honestly, again, activism and community work only has a positive outcome. And that is one of the very small things in this world that only have a positive outcome. There is no negative outcome to it. And I think that if you're looking for something calm and easy to do in your life, there you go.
Thank you so much. That was so great from the both of you, Layth and Tahsin. Katie?
I guess my one other question that I was going to ask earlier is, Layth, you were talking earlier about legacy, and I was wondering, like, if you have like a vision of what you want your legacy to be as an activist. I don't know if that's too big, but
okay, yep, no, man, I've planned for like the next 100,000 years, man.
amazing. I'm so inspired by you.
So when I talk about legacy, what I want to leave is something that's going to inspire others, right? So my like all-time goal, what I want to do, right? Take the Arab American Association, something like that, and build it up, right? I want the same things that the Arab American Association does, but I want to do it 10 times better than you guys. No offense.
We appreciate the feedback.
Take
We
it.
appreciate the help.
I want to create an organization that's going to help immigrants and stuff like you guys do, cases and stuff. I also want to do places for the youth, for the children, certain places. You know, I want to integrate all different cultures and stuff into that one area, and just put my name on it.
Slaves, we're ready for you. As soon as you graduate, just come back. We're ready to hand it over. Actually, it's not mine to hand over, but
because at the end of the day, also it just reminds you of these are issues we grew up with and that we face.
And the thing is, like, this thing is gonna get passed down through the generations, generation. Who knows who's gonna end up leading it and inspiring even more people? Because I don't have to build it all in my lifetime. You know, I'll leave it in someone's hands who maybe has a better way of doing it than me. You know, I don't have to be the one to do it. I just want it to get done. You know, I want to pass it down so people know. I want them to know their history. I want them to know stuff. You know, a lot of the people that I know, they don't even know their family history, right? They don't know their great grandparents. They don't know the places they came from. I want to leave something where they know where everything is, the problems that we faced, and how we overcame them, and the obstacles that we had to change and make our own and own them. You know, I think that's the main thing. I want to create something like that. That's the idea.
Nice.
100%.
Thank you so much.
I think there's so much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I said thank you so much. That was so good to hear.
Yeah. I think there's so much power in like community-based organizations that are really local and working on both like social and also advocacy and bigger picture, and also like preserving and passing down that history like you talked about. Tehseen, did you want to talk about legacy?
Legacy. Okay, so I think for me, legacy is that I really want to create an organization, you know, from small to large, that really focuses its attention on making. My end goal is so that everyone in the world, the youth, our generation, can do whatever profession they want. Become a doctor, a lawyer, whatever you want to do. Okay, you could do sanitation. You could do whatever profession you believe you are meant for, or that's your calling. Theatrical, singing, whatever it may be. But I want every single person from a month to a year, sometime in their 365 days of their year, every year, to sign up and do like a couple of hours of community service. And I say that because I want to start an organization that changes the conversation around community-based work. I want it, as I said, to be respected at a higher level. And I want people to understand that community service work is so important, and it needs to get more media coverage, and it needs to be broadened more so people understand its importance. A lot of the time, as I said, it is people who quietly go over to their local organization and do very hardcore physical and, you know, emotional and like work. And they just work and work and work on hours on end on their weekends, whatever hours they can give, without question, without payment, without reward, without recognition. And I think the few people that use it for their campaigns use, oh, look, we're here handing out food, doing this. That is very clear. People are not blind to what is being going on. But what I want to do is allow there to be healthy enough conversation and respect surrounding community-based work, and not thinking that volunteer work is second to internships, and like changing that conversation around that so people understand that it is your obligation to respect and work for the community that is continuously serving you. And I am truly sorry if you're not being served, but this goes back to my point. If you want to be the change that you want to see, you're going to have to work for it. And that's just the way the world works. So there's going to be, there's going to be issues, and there's going to be margins of and gaps of, treatment, but it is up for you to change that and not sit back and just accept it for what it is. And I think that's the biggest issue is when people start accepting bad things for what they are. They're like, oh, it is what it is. What are you going to do about it? It's like, no, um, that's just not how, like you can live your life unless you're okay with living your life like that. So we all came here, not we all, but whoever did and came here for a better life and better opportunity. That opportunity should be accessible to everyone, but everyone should be okay with giving a couple of hours of their community service a year to whatever organization they want to, donate to whatever organization they want to. And donations are one thing, but I feel like doing the work is another. So I really think that that's what I would want to do, is like create an empire of all these people really coming in, integrating, understanding cultures, having a very, very positive area of acceptance where we do good for the community. And the best part about it is we can have, maybe like we've done so much, if that works out, there's so much good community work, and like our world becomes like this amazing, peaceful, great place that we all love. It wouldn't hurt to do more to make it better. You can always make it better. So I think that would be my legacy. And again, any profession, anyone would be allowed to come in while doing their profession on the side, can be helping. And every profession is about people, like being people persons and being connected. I mean, I don't really know of any professions that are solely like you're always always around people. So I think that it's the best way that you can, get experience firsthand.
Nice. Katie, anything else? We're gonna wrap it up now.
Oh yeah, just that's amazing. Definitely imagine how that would change the conversation, and also just change, the work organizations are able to do.
Yeah, and then hearing the youth and seeing how far they've come compared to like my generation as millennial. It's so amazing, like being on this call with Laith and Tahseen gives me so much hope.
I know, me too. Just the amount, just the knowledge that you guys have versus where our generation was 10 years ago.
Yes, and for sure, and just knowing that organizations like AAANY, the Arab American Association of New York exist, so that we can make these connections, intergenerational connections, and create these leaders or help these leaders find a place to have the space to work in, and bring all of their passionate ideas. It feels great. I'm very grateful for places like AAANY and their staff members, and seeing that we're able to make these beautiful relationships, and then hopefully one day see it flourish and succeed the way it is today, with approaching so many issues, and just networking, like Nate said, and making our connections to the point where we're all on the level of supporting one another and having one another, so that one day we can all, have our own organizations or be a part of a bigger coalition that will help us succeed. So thank you both so much. I don't know if you both wanted to add anything else. You feel free to.
Thank you for having us, and also to the youth who's watching, get inspired, get out there, do something, start discussion. It's there's really no room for excuses, because community work can be done in so many different forms, so many different ways. If you have 5 minutes, if you have 10 minutes, if you have an hour, 2 hours, there's no restrictions. And that's the beauty of community work. So there's no excuses. Go out there, get involved, stay at home, get involved. There's really no, boundaries. So go do it, make your world a better place.
You know what Linda Sarsour says? She says, be unapologetic. Well, I'm gonna say mine right now is be inspirational. That's the new one. That's what we're gonna go with.
You're succeeding, Laith. You're succeeding.
Yes,
both
be
of you.
inspirational.
Exactly, all of it.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you guys for your energy,
your
tenacity, your boldness, your advice and wisdom for, I was going to say the future generation, but the your current generation. And yeah, you're leaving us and the audience with a lot of energy and inspiration, and I really appreciate that.
Yes, so thank you so much for everyone tuning in. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to message us or put it in the comment section below. I'm not sure if anyone did, but also AAA-NY is always around to assist and help.
One thing I do want to say, while we have youth plugged in or tuned in, that we do have registration open for our youth programs for the fall. Tehseen and Laith are both connected to us from our youth programs. So we're running 3 programs this fall. Brooklyn Arab Youth, which is a community organizing and skills-based program for co-ed high school students, and Brooklynat, which is going to be a radical history course, and it will be led by Rania Lee Khalil from the community member and a professor at the New School, and that's for female identifying high school students. And then Activism, which is a creative writing program for female identifying high school students who also identify as Arab American. So we will link the registration links in the chat below, and we would love you to share our programs with anyone who might be interested.
All right, thank you so much.
And also, if you would like to support the youth programs and other programming of the Arab American Association of New York, we'll also be putting a donation link in the chat, or not the chat, the comments.
Stay inspirational.
Yes.
And be inspirational. Be like Laith and Tehseen. Go do something tonight that makes the world a better place.
This is your opportunity. You have one life. Do what you want. Be good. Have fun.
Yeah, you have one life.